Welcome back to the Burnout Recovery Club. I am very excited to have someone here that is exceptional and unique and also happens to be my little baby sister. Her name is Kerry, and I'd love to share her story with all of you. Hi, my name is Michelle, and I am passionate about helping overwhelmed and exhausted moms recover from and manage burnout. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it's time you join our mom tribe. Say goodbye to mom guilt and hello to self-care, self-love, and acceptance. This is the Burnout Recovery Club. Do you want to share your story?
Sure. So my name is Kerry Walsh. I'm a motivational speaker / recent-ish author and disability activist. I live in South Africa and I run my passion project of K Motivation due to my life, and I live with spinal muscular atrophy, which is a rare disease. And this rare disease has sort of determined my path and passion, I guess, but it's also defined my family in a large way as well. With this, I've sort of just taken all my passion projects and my need to see change for people living with a disability, especially in South Africa, and I've used it as my platform.
Tell us a bit about your disability and how it's affected you.
So, spinal muscular atrophy is a rare genetic disorder. So, as you get older, your muscles slowly deteriorate. And one of the best examples is when I was younger, I could lift my arms above my head, and now I can sort of only move from my elbows downward. As I get older, I will lose less movement. I was given a life expectancy of 5 years old. Didn't quite float my boat or my family's, to be honest, and we just sort of lived life and did everything as per normal and went with the flow. And yeah, I'm now turning 28 in October, and I think it's important to live every moment fully as possible and just take advantage of all the adventures and opportunities I've had. And I'm just sort of making the most of the time I have while I have it.
That's awesome, and I think that's why you've always been such a motivator to me, because you live such a positive and optimistic life, but you're also there to try and help others. So I'm currently living in California, where accessibility is the norm. It's completely normal to have an area for a wheelchair to go up onto a sidewalk next to a parking that is an accessible parking. South Africa is not really like that. What have the challenges been in a wheelchair not being able to get accessible entry into certain places? What have you found in your journey so far?
I think the biggest thing in this country is probably the lack of knowledge. There's just a lack of awareness and knowledge around what disability means, what it requires, and that it's not a complicated fix always, but that it is a requirement and should be a requirement everywhere we go. It's not mandated and it's not always forced, but it's sort of encouraged. So then it looks like a plus, and it shouldn't be a plus, it should be a requirement. For me, I've decided that moaning about it gets you nowhere, so you need to be teachable, but you also need to be teachable in a practical manner. So I don't expect everywhere in the world to have a ramp by tomorrow, but I expect someone to listen in a polite manner when spoken to, and I will also be respectful, but it needs to be done, and it needs to be done relatively hastily, because you're giving someone the idea that they're not welcome, which is so unacceptable in today's day and age, especially when everyone should be welcome everywhere.
Agreed. And have you found most people are open to change? And if not, what is the biggest thing that holds them back?
People are scared of change, and I think people also don't always know if it's their responsibility or somebody else's. But I also think that in this day and age, people are really open to listening, and people are open to trying, at least having the conversation. They're open to at least listening to you. If they don't know how to do the change, they're also often quite open to asking you for your perspective.
Okay. So, if you are going to a restaurant for dinner that you haven't been to before, what do you need to do before you go to make sure that it's an accessible space?
So anyone living with a disability has learned that it's always sort of one extra step or two extra steps before going anywhere.
Okay.
But for me, it's always about making your phone, checking that there's a parking, that there is a big enough door, that there are no steps, and I've learned to understand that it's understanding, making sure that they understand what a step is. Because a step, as much as it's a universal term, it's not always understood completely, but it's also dependent on your disability and your chair, for example. Like
Mm-hmm.
my wheelchair is big, very heavy, whereas like a push wheelchair or a manual wheelchair is a little more adaptable to certain situations and certain environments. So you also need to be very clear and precise on what you need.
Okay. And what if you could just share information about how you would like to be treated? What would you share with someone that doesn't know or understand the disability? For instance, like, would you like someone to ask you what you can do and what you can't do, or would you prefer that they not engage? Or how could people be better?
I think that people need to be more aware of their sort of surroundings, but I
Mm-hmm.
also think that as an individual with disability, I've learned to be more open to people's questions and people asking, because they're not asking to be rude, they're asking to be knowledgeable. And if they're willing to be knowledgeable, that means they care. So
Yeah.
as an individual, I'm a lot more open to people asking questions, but I do think people also need to be cognitive of people who just want to live their lives and don't want to be harassed. And I think the best thing for that is just asking open, honest questions. Say, do you want to talk about it? Are you open to talking about it? And if the person says no, they're not being rude. They might just also be really tired of living with their own situation, or maybe they're not at this stage of their life, because I also think that I've made it to the stage because of all the living that I've done, and I
Yeah.
think it's important to know that for someone it might be new and fresh, and they just might not be ready.
Yeah. And I think because as a family, we've all grown up with the circumstances. We know them very clearly, and I
Mm.
think we get frustrated very easily. But if someone hasn't walked that road, they don't know. So we've had circumstances where we've gone on holiday and we've booked a room that is accessible. This is not once or twice. This is many, many times where we've specifically done the calling and made sure it is an accessible room. Yet, and they might have the wheelchair parking or the accessible parking, but then there's a step into the room or there's a step into another area of the house. So it's not just having a parking space. It's walking the route in a wheelchair and actually realizing that the whole route needs to be adjusted. It's that the whole process that I think people don't think about, specifically in the area where they're in Johannesburg. I feel like that process in California has been thought out. The fact that there's always extra room next to a wheelchair parking for someone to actually get ramps out or get a chair out of a car, or they just make sure that there's extra room. They make sure that there's a little passage so that they can actually get up to a step or a pathway. So I think it's thinking the whole way through someone's journey as well, and not just, oh, tick a box because we've got an accessible parking. Okay, so we need to be better. People need to think about literally sitting in a wheelchair and not having access to be able to move and adjust and actually walk through that area and
Mm.
think about it. And you did something like that at your job, didn't you? At your occupation, where people actually sat in wheelchairs and felt like what it was like and what they had to ask for and what they needed help with. What did they think about that?
I think it was literally the coolest activity I've ever been a part of. Like you said, it just gave so much perspective because people took their day of corporate life and it was just one day. And so many of them just said, that was so difficult, or that was so tiring, or why couldn't I reach the coffee station? The coffee station is something so basic, or oh my gosh, the doors in our office are so heavy. Like it's something so simple, but I also think the biggest success out of that project was that our office made physical changes to our office space because they experienced them. So it's first-hand knowledge. And that's what you want. Like,
Yeah.
you just want people to grow and change. They're allowed to do things wrong, but if you learn from it and change, you're winning.
So we need more people that are actually in these situations to go out and test places so that we can find out what changes we can make.
100%. Ask the people from the right perspective, not
Yeah.
just assuming they may need.
Exactly. And you've had many difficulties with the medical field with the same thing, just not asking clear questions and assuming. How can we get people to ask better questions and be more open and honest about what they're going through so that the medical community can be better?
Everyone just needs to be less afraid of asking questions. You're not necessarily going to make a situation worse because you've asked someone what they need in a situation. And it's also showing a sense of patience and willingness to do it. Because if you're asking, you're already opening the door to show that you're willing to state fully that you cannot promise a complete change. No one's expecting miracles in every industry of the world. That would be unrealistic. However, you're opening the conversation and the opportunity to create change. And I think everyone in the world just wants to know that they're being listened.
For instance, what I've noticed, again, comparing California with Johannesburg in South Africa, is when I went for an annual checkup, when I was filling out my forms, there was actually one of the forms questions was, do you need anything? I can't remember the exact wording, but it was, do you need anything from an accessibility point of view? So I literally asked in the form, do I need help with my sight or my hearing or my appointment or anything like that? So straight up in the beginning, you can actually declare, this is what I need, and we can start the whole consultation up front knowing what the doctor or healthcare professional needs to help you with. And I think that's an easier way of getting the information to them without having this whole question and answer and repeating yourself over and over again. Do you think that would be something that would be helpful for you?
I do, and I think it'll give the healthcare professional an opportunity to do a little bit of like pre-research or pre-check and understanding, which is only going to benefit them. They can't know everything about every disease and every sickness in the world. That's not possible. If you do something like that for your appointment, you're giving them the chance to show that they're one step ahead and show that they're ready for your appointment and they're ready to listen to what
It's what you have is a rare disease. So, I mean, when you talk to people about it, how many people actually recognize the word spinal muscular atrophy or recognize the name? Is it like 1 out of 10 or is it 2 out of 10? Or do not many people, including healthcare professionals, know what spinal muscular atrophy is?
I look forward to the day that I say it and someone doesn't go, sorry? Excuse me?
Okay, so
Oh,
there's that
it's
little awareness.
there's often a quick comparison to maybe a different disease or a similar disease, which I don't think is completely wrong, but it's also then it's putting you directly in the wrong classification before you started.
Yeah. Okay. So you have done lots of work with the Rare Disease Foundation. What have they helped you understand, or what have you gotten out of that advocacy for rare diseases?
Working with them created a lot of perspective and awareness for me that it's not all sort of like us, the patients, against the medical industry. They are people within the industry that genuinely do care and are trying to help. But it also showed that there's a community of people out there that are going through a very similar situation, and we all just want to sort of join together. I think with that, I found like this family community environment of people who genuinely understand. And there's also people that can understand from a sister perspective or a mom perspective, or so there's people for my whole family to find a connection and understanding, because I think the difficult part with rare diseases is often people just feel alone and misunderstood.
Okay, so what brings you joy on a day-to-day basis? With so much negativity, let's spin it around. What makes you happy and brings you joy?
I enjoy my job, but I enjoy the opportunity to go outside. I enjoy the opportunity to spend time with my family. I enjoy the opportunity to sort of make, like you said, make light out of a good day. I mean, there's always something good to find in your day. I think the opportunity to just go outside and sit in the sun for an hour and just listen to music is the perfect way to one.
Yeah, I it's amazing how much fresh air, some sun, and just going outside
Mm.
can just make your day better. Okay, so what is the best compliment you've ever received?
Wow. I definitely think it would be the compliment after I published my book last year. Someone said they really found a lot of hope and beauty in the words that I had specifically chosen to explain my story and my life. And I think all you want out of sharing your story is someone to connect with it. And as soon as one person has connected with it, you and the rest.
So now that we're onto your book, tell us what that
Here we go.
journey was like. You're officially a published author. How does it feel? What was the journey like?
It's crazy. It's nearly about a year old, and I can't quite believe that it still happened. But I loved writing. Writing has always been a passion of mine. But I also love the idea of being able to leave something behind that fully encapsulates me and everything I believe, have been through, aim to do, want to do, haven't done, have done. It's everything in one book, and I loved writing it, but I loved seeing people read it more.
That's awesome. What was the hardest part about writing the book?
There are some chapters that aren't so fun. Let's not lie, the book's not all rainbows and sunshines, but I think reliving my 2012 backup through the words I'd written and then like reorganizing them into the book was probably that.
Was that one of the hardest things you've been through? I think you mentioned that it's one of the hardest things in the book, and personally, I know how much it affected us as a family. So, yeah, how are you feeling about that today? Once you've re-looked at it.
It was the best decision for me and my future and my health. And it's definitely given me more of a future than I think I would have had. But I do think I definitely beat one of my biggest battles. And I look back at it as the first time I ever thought, I'm not quite sure if I'm strong enough to do this, but managed to find the strength in it and in myself to just decide that, well, you've already gotten through it. The surgery was over, so it's time to get up and keep going. And I think remembering what you've achieved is just as important as aiming for something.
Yeah. Do you think it was hard to rest and not
Yes,
be
I'm
productive?
not a rester. Uh, Someone said it very interesting the other day that you're given a life expectancy, so you always feel like you're running against the clock.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you clock, you still feel like a space news.
Have you learned as you've gotten older that, I mean, I heard the words the other day, what was it? That you don't have to, rest is not a reward. Rest is self care. And you don't have to be productive in order to give yourself rest. How do those words resonate with you?
Yeah, I like the whole reward concept. I feel like we only give ourselves rest because we feel like we've earned it, not because we just need it to survive as human beings. And I've come to realize that as much as I think I am unbreakable, at some point your body needs a rest, and you're also not cheating the time you have or the time you've won or cheating one by giving yourself the opportunity. And you're actually only making yourself better
Yeah.
because you're making yourself able to continue afterwards.
Yeah. And I think we're quite similar in that way that we work really hard, and then when we've overdone it, our body forces us to rest by getting sick.
Mm.
Do you agree?
Definitely. And I experienced it the most last year when I was sick because I knew I was sick, but I still had like a list of things I needed to do that week. And I went on a trip and I went to a family thing and I went to a work thing until I ended up in hospital because my body was like, you are done.
Yeah.
And it took that to realize that if you had tapped out before, you would have been sick for less time and you actually would have saved more time in the
Yeah.
whole concept.
Yeah. And I'm seeing that more and more as I get older as well. That that's the way my body shows burnout. It is me getting sick. And before I get sick, I get tired. But I think in the past I used to just push that tired away and just push through because
Mm.
there's stuff to do, there's things to do. And I think I can notice now when I'm reaching that point and actually take a step back and rest and not do as much. Um, I I remember someone saying to me, "You don't have to give 100% all the time. 75% is enough." And when I push myself too hard, sometimes I try and remember 75% is enough. You don't have to get it all done 100% all the time. It seems to help me a bit. how do you
I think it's important.
how do you manage your stress and manage to avoid burnout?
I try and focus on the joy so that I don't feel as stressed, but I also try and remind myself that being imperfect isn't making you less, it's actually making you human. But I've also realistic of can't always be, it's not possible for anyone.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to live up to this unrealistic concept of being perfect, let's just
Yeah. I think having these expectations is a big problem. They're unrealistic and we're trying to live up to perfection and that just doesn't exist. So where can people find your book?
So we do have a link on my website that is available via Amazon, and you can also check out the different blog posts and social media pages where you may see future books.
Ooh, is there something in the
Very.
works or are you not telling us?
I've had 20 more years of life experience to
Okay,
write the next book. Had
fair
20
enough.
years in it.
Fair enough. It's a lot of work. I'm sure you love the reward, but I'm sure it took a lot out of you for the amount of time that you spent on it.
I think people forget how long a book takes, or maybe also, but like that took, I'm going to call it close to 10 years of my life to be a book. So for it to come out and then in 6 months everyone's read it and they're like, so where's number two? And you're like, ha ha ha, give me 10 years.
There's also the cost of that time and the effort and that energy. So, if you are writing another book, what time are you giving up? So it's something that I think about often because we both like to write and we both do blog posts. And I think you said that's how your idea for the book started was taking your
Yeah.
blog posts and making it into your story. And I love that because we like to write just to share experiences and share information, and it's almost a form of therapy for me. Do you find that writing is that for you?
Oh, 100%. I think the book was the most like cathartic experience and the best way of like, it's taking all your thoughts in your head, putting it down, and then realizing that what you've written is actually maybe valuable to somebody else for them to read.
Yeah.
But I mean, you didn't have to create it out of nowhere, it's your experience. So you feel like you're getting so much out of your lived experience by using it in a different way.
And having that physical thing to give to someone who perhaps could have a life changing effect with reading it.
Exactly. I think it's important to know that the book isn't like the end all and be all. I don't have all the knowledge. It's a perspective, but it's a perspective that someone may be able to connect with. And the idea is that it's for people living with a disability and rare disease and those who know someone who is and need perspective.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. People will connect with different parts of the story. And sometimes we just want to know that someone else is going through something so that we're not alone.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what was your biggest challenge so far? Was it the backup?
Definitely. I think it was the first time that I felt very defeated and felt like I didn't have a way out of it. Couldn't see how we were going to move past. But I think it's also my biggest learning experience in terms of how I definitely learned who I had in my corner. I learned how much strength I did have deep down, and I learned how to take what made me upset in a negative manner and put it into a form of constructive.
What is your pet peeve? What is something that you absolutely hate?
I don't like ignorance. I don't like rude people. I don't have time to
Do any
witness
of us?
for people
Me
who
either.
has time.
Me either.
But I don't. The world is going through enough. Everyone in the world is going through enough. And you don't know how much someone fought to get to where they are today. So
So true.
you have nothing to say. Head on the other direction.
So true. And if you could tell your 18-year-old self something, what would you tell them?
Wow.
To be less
I
of a
think we are in less of a hurry.
less of a hurry.
We're in such a need to get somewhere and to get to 21 and to get to 18 and to get to 30 and to get married and to have children. And a lot of it is societal expectation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, we're always racing and how about stop and enjoy this moment?
Yeah, living
Be
in the
grateful.
present.
Exactly. We're so lucky to have this moment. Let's fully accept it and enjoy it and immerse ourselves in it, and we'll deal with it.
That's such nice advice. So, was there anything that you wanted to share that I didn't ask, or anything you want to tell us about? Besides, obviously, I'm going to add your book details to the show notes, but is there anything else that you want to share with us before we go?
Um, no, I think the only thing I can really think of is how taking these sort of opportunities. I think everyone should fully immerse themselves in the opportunity to step outside their comfort zone and try something a little different every now and again. I mean, we love putting ourselves in real complicated situations sometimes, but we also do it because it's the best way to learn. And I think
Yeah.
that's the greatest do for ourselves.
But you got to do the scary things in order to learn, right?
100%.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for sharing your journey. I hope that you will be back soon to tell us more about different things that you're doing and going through. And that's it from us. Have a good day. You just finished an episode of the Burnout Recovery Club, and I am so glad that you are here and part of this very special mom tribe. If you're looking for more info, check out my website. And remember to like and share this episode so that we can reach more moms just like you. Just a reminder that this podcast is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please contact a medical professional for treatment and diagnosis or any help, questions, or frustrations that you are having. And remember, you are so much more than just a mom.